Porsche's 911 Turbo can humble virtually any stratospherically priced supercar you care to name in terms of real-world usable performance. It was always fast, but in this 8th generation 992 series version, that speed is more accessible. So it's not only one of the most technologically advanced cars ever built, it's also one of the most exhilarating. In short, another engineering masterclass from Porsche.
We've always loved 911 turbos, but through the decades, with some of them, the uber-powerful engine could so dominate the driving experience that just occasionally some of the crucial interactivity that 911s are so famous for sometimes felt as if it was being lost. We'd worried that that might happen once again with this 992 series car because its new 3.8 litre flat six has even more power, 580 PS in standard turbo form or 650 if you specify the alternative Turbo S variant that we're trying here. In the S, 62 miles an hour from rest occupies 2.7 seconds, 100 to 205 miles an hour if you're quick with the paddle shifters for the new 8-speed PDK twin-clutch auto gearbox. In the unlikely event that you're interested in the efficiency stats, let's tell you that both the standard Coupe Turbo and this Coupe Turbo S model manage up to 23.5 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 271 grams per kilometre of CO2. Having all that extra power is all very nice, but as we've already suggested, lack of power was never a problem for this car in the first place. Tactile driver involvement was always the issue. Now, purists will tell you that less is more in that respect, but perhaps a few purists need to drive this car if that's what they really think. Let's look at how this car has evolved though. There's Porsche's latest all-wheel drive system that constantly varies torque between the front and rear axles, plus active suspension and rear axle steering, which subtly turns the rear wheels as you corner. And you get a completely new PAA, Porsche Active Aerodynamic package, with active air flaps and an active rear wing, which is lighter and larger than before. It's all enough to introduce a small but significant degree of control and extra involvement, whether the drive dynamics are being exercised on a country road, a speed unlimited autobahn, or even on a racetrack. Are there issues? Well, perhaps. For our taste, the suspension is maybe a touch over firm for road use. The ride rarely seems to settle down, however much you fiddle with the settings of the standard dynamic chassis control system. But Porsche clearly thinks that the potential 911 Turbo owner wants that. Well, perhaps they're right. What isn't up for debate, though, is that this is the fastest, the most involving, and the most complete rocket ship for the road that Porsche has ever made. You don't need to be a car enthusiast to recognise the distinctive shape of a 911, but you may need to be a bit of a Porsche-phile to identify the visual changes which have created this 992 series 3.8 litre turbo model. Most of them are based around active aerodynamics. The active cooling flaps are new, so is the variable front spoiler lip. Body style choice, as before, lies between this coupe or an even more exclusive cabriolet version with a canvas hood that can be raised or lowered in only 12 seconds. At the rear, you get this tilting rear wing, which aids a drag coefficient that can be as sleek as 0.33 CD. Inside, although it doesn't have the vodka bar chic of a Maserati or the Old Spice Machismo of an Aston, the interior is as classy as the exterior lines would suggest, if a bit subdued for a car bearing a £150,000 price tag. As in an ordinary Carrera, the dashboard flows in an unbroken span across the entire width of the interior. Through this grippy three-spoke wheel lies a defiantly analogue central rev counter, without which a Porsche, well, simply wouldn't be a Porsche. But the two 7-inch readouts that sit either side of it are actually configurable freeform displays. Just about everything else you need to know is covered off by this generously sized 10.9-inch flush-mounted Porsche communication management touchscreen display in the centre of the dash. It's the car screen that you'll be using most, and that's to select your preferred settings for drive modes, chassis setup, and the state of the exhaust note, and the spoiler levitation too. All of it delivered with glorious graphical clarity. Now, with most rival super sports cars, Audi's R8, Aston Martin's Vantage, the Mercedes-AMG GT and McLaren's 540C, for example, this is where we'd be finishing our tour of the cabin. But the 911 has its reputation as the most practical model in the class to uphold, hence the continued inclusion of these two small rear seats. You'd have to do without that in the brand 718 Cayman and Boxster models, but those two cars have a mid-engine configuration which frees up space for a rear boot compartment, which of course with this twin-turbo 3.7 litre 6 slung out the back here, you don't get with this 911, just this little flap that rises to reveal an engine plaque and access to various service reservoirs. That means anything you can't fit inside, therefore, has to go in the 132 litre compartment that's provided beneath this sculpted bonnet. There are basically three kinds of supercar. The first group, Astons, AMG Mercs and the like, are very fast and very stylish, but they aren't quite so much at home on twisties or racetracks. The second group, Ferraris and Lambos and so on, they very differently are, but they need the genius of a Schumacher or an Alonso to wring the very best from them. Nor would you really want to nip down to the shops in them. Which leaves the third group, a very exclusive one indeed, for cars that can combine everything in one exhilarating, everyday usable package. Audi's R8 gets close to qualifying here, but at the end of the day, we would narrow membership down to just one car, this one. This 3.8 litre 992 Series 911 Turbo is faster than ever, but most importantly, it's at last speed that mere mortals can enjoy to the full. It is, at last, the definitive supercar.